Hi, I'm Bonnie McDonald Dixon, a health advocate, and I'd like to introduce Ann Crawford here with us today. And we look forward to uh, talking with you about 2023. So here we go. We're going to do a little talk today, a little slide deck here. What's your plan for 2020? Plan B for 2023? And we're just here we go. And so, what we're going to talk about today is first, I'd like to introduce Anne, and I'm going to have her talk about her amazing career of 17 years, and share a little bit of, maybe how you got started and who you help.
Well, I got started over 17 years ago. Actually, started with developing personal growth workshops, and in the course of that, we took our my clients from one point to another. Many of them didn't know what they wanted to do, and others wanted to be out of bad relationships and things like that. And you can see the progression, and that's where I really love what I do, is seeing people grow within themselves. And that's why we decided to do Plan B, because there's always something more coming. There's always something you need to learn. So it's been enjoyable. 17 going on 18 years of helping civilians and the military really discover who they are and what they want to go to as far as careers go. So how about you, Bonnie? I'd love to hear your story.
Yes, my story is that my father literally didn't like what he did for a living. It could be that he had 5 kids and 2 jobs and he was just plumb tired. But I said, I will always love what I do and I will have a job that I like. So I have had a portfolio career of many, many jobs. And I must say, sometimes I changed jobs because I didn't like who I was working with. And sometimes I changed jobs because I didn't like what I did. But I must say, I've always loved most of the time what I do because I've had a head thing where whatever you're doing is the perfect job. But at the same time, you can move from where you're at to somewhere else. And that's what you and I are going to discuss today.
That's
We're
right.
going to have some fun here. And let's see here. I'm going to go to the slide, and that would be here. Bear with me, everyone. There we go. And we're going to move on. That was myself. And this is some statistics that might be of interest to everyone. Did you know 50% of workers feel stressed? Are you one of those? 41% of workers are feeling worried. Are you worried about your job? And 18 workers percent of the workers are feeling angry. And I tell you, I have worked with some of those workers
Yeah.
before. And so Anne and I want to know, are you ready to create your plan B for 2023 if you're working in a job that is not working for you? So let's explore. And it's like we're going on a journey here. So go with us on this because it may take you to places you've never known before and to places that may just open up your whole world. So, Anne, uh, when you're working with people, do you help? Do you explore a little bit about releasing some of the things they don't want so they can have what they do want?
Absolutely. The first thing about finding that you're off balance is writing those lists down, and we're going to talk about that. But the negativity, identifying your negativity is huge, and how you carry that around. And like the slide said, the burning bowl, it is essential for you to put those thoughts into a compartment and eventually let go of it. You're in action. Where are you paralyzed? And in moving forward, what is keeping you there? Is it fear factors and complaining constantly? You don't really realize how many times that you are negative with complaining until somebody identifies that with you, and you're like, really? I didn't realize I complained all the time. But if you complain in the workplace and then you complain at home, no one wants to be around with you. So those things should be in that bowl, getting ready to be burned and said goodbye to. What are your ideas, Bonnie, on the clearing of negative energy. How do you
Mhm.
do that, and how do you've done that for your
Mhm.
clients?
Well, the burning bowl is very symbolic. We can do it many ways, but this is one tool you can have in your hip pocket. You can do it anytime. Often, people will do it once in the beginning of the year, of putting all their things that they want to release into on little notes and then burn them. Please do this carefully, of course, and don't build a bonfire in the house. um, but at any time, this is what I want everyone to know. At any time, by journaling, we're going to talk about this a little later, but by writing down your thoughts, taking the time actually every day to think about your day, to think about your life, what you want to keep for the day, what you want to release, it will actually clear the decks so you can get so much more done and feel so much better. And so this particular tool, the burning bowl, is very powerful. I would just say that. And the complaining part again, my own father, love him to death. He's 92. He complained about his work all the time, and it that's what triggered me to say, I will not do that in my life. I want to live my life joyfully. I want to live my life purposefully and to love my life because as far as I know, I only have one life here. And in doing so, the ripple effect to others is also very powerful. I think what you shared, Anne, if we're negative at work, that ripple effect affects the person right next to you.
It's true.
It,
It's
it
true. Mhm.
yeah, it does. So let's go on to what would happen, the consequences, if we just stay the same as last year or the year before or the year before. Um, so I call it being stuck. What do
Yeah.
you call it, Anne?
Paralyzed, which is another word for being stuck, but it
Yeah. Yeah.
almost like you're
And
on a gerbil wheel and you just don't see the way off of this. Because let's talk about something similar with your dad. A lot of my clients also feel stuck. They don't feel options. And what does that do to your body? It eventually disintegrates your happiness factor here. And when
mhm,
you're not happy, you feel closed in and depressed. And
mhm,
like on our list here, where we say you're unhappy and sad, absolutely. But it also it limits you to think outside the box.
mhm,
It's truly you don't think of any other options, and that's
mhm,
then the hopelessness kicks in
mhm,
and the feeling bad. But
mhm,
the prize winner of it all, and I don't know, we'll talk about you, Bonnie, but the victim role is
mhm,
such a subconscious way of thinking that most people don't really realize they're playing the victim role until they hear themselves.
mhm.
What do you think about that one?
It is a habit. We may have learned it from our parents.
Hmm.
We may have glommed onto it from a partner or a friend, but this is the goal. Listen to yourself speak. And if you want to scare yourself, ask a few friends and family members. You know, do I complain? Am I a victim? And if they're saying, yeah, deep breathe, don't be angry at them. Just say, what do I want? Do I want to live a happy, joyful life at my work and in everyday life? Or do I want to again stay the same as I was last year? Because it's hard to engage others, a new workplace, a new partner, a new job. If you are feeling stuck and angry, you literally can make yourself sick
Yeah,
because you will depress your immune system with these thoughts. The body will create um, emotions to make you feel bad. It becomes a habit. The neurons are waiting to hear from you. And if we continue with positive thought processes and doing things that make us happy, the body knows that too, and it will create neurons for that. But if we strangely enough, it will do the same for the negative. If we continue the negative and the negative thoughts and the negative feelings, the body will create situations to validate yourself. And Candace Pert did some huge studies on this 30, 40 years ago. And so it's a actually clinical thing that we can actually train our brain to think the way we want it to think. We do not have to stay the same. You do not have to be like your father, your mother, your partner. But if you hang with people that do that, you become like them.
Yeah, you
And
almost
yes.
soak in their energy, and that's not good. I have a
Mhm,
great example as staying the same and it's being stuck. I had this woman come into my employment support
mhm,
group, and she was in the IT department, and she got laid off. And at first she was paralyzed in fear, and then the anger came in, and she said to all of us, "I'm never going back to that kind of department ever again. I'm not." And
mhm,
so we started to see her break free.
mhm,
And the difference in her when she broke out of that negativity, stay stuck, and started to think about options that she could have in her life through coaching, all of a sudden she changed. But then she stopped coming because her husband was very ill for a little while. And it's almost like an addiction. She went back and said the fear of money, losing money, was greater than her happiness. And what did she do? She picked up a contract job in the ID department.
mhm,
I have to say, I was like, why are you doing this? Well, Anne, I need the money so badly. I said, you just spent many sessions with me getting detox literally from
mhm,
being stuck. She said, I know, but the money was too much. Sure enough, she got laid off from that job. And then the despair came in, and she was angry with herself for caving in. And it only triples the negativity and the consequences that you're dealing with when you're not moving forward, when you don't break free of being stuck. She knew it. She tried it, and it was almost like she was uncomfortable with feeling really good about herself again and about her home life and everything else. But she went right back to that, not a victim role in her case, but that angry, stuck phase. Now she's
mhm,
out of it, but what will come of this again if she chooses to go back to the IT familiar world? It's all
mhm.
fear based beliefs, everybody. It's all fear based. Yeah.
Wow, you gave me the chills telling me that story. The fear factor, and part of why you and I decided to do this little conversation here, ongoing conversation, is because you all know and I know sometimes it's not all or nothing, it's
Oh,
all in something. So you may be working that job that you dislike. I was a postal carrier for 6.5 years. The first day that I did that job, I got blisters the size of this on the bottom of my feet. The people around me were not happy, but I'd worked so hard to get that job. I said, "Oh, I'm going to do this
yeah,
job." But what I ended up doing is realizing it was not the job for me. I I had trouble walking away from the money at the time. It was a good paying job, good
yeah,
benefits.
yeah.
But I said, "No, I need to move on." But I didn't quit the job. What I did was educate myself. So at nights, hot and sweaty in my outfit, I'd go to take college classes. I volunteered at a health food store that I loved because I wanted to learn that business. I volunteered on my days off for a year. Do you know I was learning my plan B? I was working towards something along with what I was doing so that I got the best of that job, the money and the benefits, but I springboarded into another job while I was doing the job I was doing. I think that's one of the biggest tips or encouragement I could ever give you is you don't have to quit your job, but if you want to move forward, you've got to do something different. You can't
Right,
do the same.
right. I think you brought up a good point. We talked before about it's either You hate what you're doing or you hate the people. In this client's case, she really loved the IT world, and that's what kept her locked in, besides making pretty good, phenomenal money, to be honest with you. It
Mhm.
was the ethics of the people that she worked with
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
she saw crumbling be around her. And she said, I can't be a part of this. They treat you like trash here,
Mhm.
and my whole insides are crumbling also along with the
Mhm.
organization.
Mhm.
So be aware, like Bonnie said, she had a different perspective when she was working all these jobs. I had jobs where I had toxic bosses myself.
Mhm. Mhm.
And like, the thing that I love about Bonnie is that she steps outside her comfort zone. She knows her gut feeling, everybody. And
Mhm.
that's what I want you to trust in this process that we're talking about. You don't trust your gut, you'll never move away from the things that are keeping you stuck, and think about things outside of the box. And that's what Bonnie did. There
Mhm.
was nothing to lose. She got educated. That education will stay with her for the rest of her life, no matter if she uses those tasks or not. They're phenomenal. And she opened her universe to something different. Did she go with it all throughout the rest of her life? So far, I don't think so, because Bonnie is so proactive to trying new things that
Mhm.
it's refreshing, to be honest with you. And if that's
Mhm.
the mindset you take, you won't have anything to burn in that bowl. It's
Mhm.
all just going to be good things that you're learning about yourself. So keep
Mhm.
that in mind.
Thank you for that, Anne. One of the things I did, I heard a really good speaker, and he said, if you, like a dog, this is a good example. If you throw a ball to a dog and he runs and he fetches it, he's got the ball in his mouth. And then you throw two balls and you see if he can pick up both of them. And he might be able to pick up both of them.
Yeah,
But if you pick up three balls and throw it out, he'll try to have everything in his mouth, but he can't quite do it. So
right.
you get to pick and choose what you want to put on your plate, in your body, in your mouth, in your mind. And we can do all of those things. Maybe you write out, I'm going to give an exercise a little later before we go so that for next week you have something to bring back to us. But
Mhm.
there's an exercise I have people do. I'm going to tell you right now to do this. Um, you'll get a deck of 100 3x5 cards. And I want you to write down everything you've ever thought you wanted to do, ever. And then you're going to sort those cards. You're going to sort them into the pile for now, and the pile for maybe next year, and the pile for someday, which is, of course, nothing because someday is no day. There is no someday. And put all the nows in. And now you'll pick up those now cards, hold them in your hand, and look them over, and just take a couple deep breaths and literally feel what that feels like to do it right now. And you'll find the right one. And that's the one that we're going to help you in this next exercise or two, to how to hone in on that.
Right.
Because we want you to have your plan B, but the whole goal is to move it to be your plan A.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's look at some more slides here. Let's see here. There we go. And so that's the consequence if you stay the same. But we're going to help you right now. Get your pen and paper out, or your computer, or your phone, and just be quiet for about 3 minutes right now. It seems like forever. Put pen to paper and just do it. So I'm going to put a little timer on, and Anne and I will just be here hanging out with you. Okay, we got 3 minutes going. So that may have seemed like a long time, or that may have seemed like a short time. I wrote a few things down for myself to learn this year. Did you, Anne, have a chance to write anything down too?
It's all about communication, folks. That's what it is for me.
Hmm.
Yep.
I wrote down some things like learn Canva, and you'd say, well, is that a job? Well, in a sense, it's adding to my portfolio. And so I always think of what am I going to be doing to increase my value, my worth to others, just so I can serve. And I also wrote down I have a goal to be called what they call a senior director with a particular company I'm partnered with.
Yeah.
And I love this what we're doing, helping others
Really.
live their best 2023. It's juicy to me because I just love for people to love their life. It's really important.
It
Yeah.
was simple to do. I think we think it's so overwhelming, but really, we all took the same steps. We took a baby step for figuring this whole thing out that we're talking about right now. It
Mm,
started with an idea.
mhm,
Actually, it started with having the guts to network on Zoom.
mhm,
Then you make your action steps, which we're going to talk about in our next session. But action steps, what are you ready to do? And we just said we're ready to talk to each other. Then we clicked so well that we thought of great ideas, and now we're implementing them. But it
mhm,
all starts in small things, and that's where the communication for me is. This
mhm,
year is huge on communication with me because you cannot put out unless you know or tell people what you need from them or want from them.
mhm,
Ask people. That's what this whole process is all about. So when we asked you to write about things, it's also talking to yourself also and figuring out what comes next. Oh, I don't like that. I'm not settling for this type
mhm,
things. And those behavior patterns,
mhm.
those behavior patterns. So I think
Man, do we have those?
we
And we
all
all have them, that's for sure.
have.
So so what did, just asking the audience, what did you find out about yourself and your thought patterns and your behaviors? It's really interesting. We go from the questioning to our minds,
Yeah,
working to like a light bulb moment going, oh, is that what I've been doing? To
right.
the aha.
Exactly. Your thought patterns. Were you passive? Were you aggressive at work? Did you play the victim role again and go home and go, woe is me? Or did you were an advocate like Bonnie was and said, this isn't a good fit for me. I'm going to go on to something else. But then
Mhm.
those behavior patterns, what was going on at work? Did you have a toxic employer, or were the ethics of the company really bad? Or did you really, really dislike your tasks that you were doing? And if you disliked your tasks, why not go get educated or trained in something, be a mentor, or find a mentor, I should say, in another setting that you really like? So you got to look at those lists that you just performed and say, what is exciting for me on those lists, and why aren't I going after them?
Mm, great, great observation there. An interesting one for me is as a child, we often go back to our childhood for things.
Yes, it's where it
I was the
starts.
eldest of 5, and the dishes would pile up, and it was a big mess and everything, and there was not a lot of coordination, and I, being the eldest, wanted to herd everybody into doing stuff, and it didn't often work very well, and I would resent doing the dishes. So
Yeah,
it's a task, it's a job. And it was many years later, I read this book by Thich Nhat Hanh. He happened to have been a Buddhist, and he wrote a book, many, many books, but one quote was to look at the task and do it with love,
yeah,
do with observing, thank the job task. So, doing dishes, he said, pick up each dish mindfully and wash it with love. Do you know it changed the way I do dishes? I don't mind doing dishes now. I actually enjoy doing dishes because it gives me a quiet time to just thank that dish, thank that plate, that spoon for its service. So as we are working, no matter what the situation, we can thank the person we're interacting with if they're a real pain in the patoots,
yeah,
and thank them in a sense. And do you know, if you're working with someone and they've got really bad energy and you're very calm and don't rise up to their angst and their anger, and you stay calm, that will calm the other person down.
yeah, it's true. That is
And
very true.
so you can learn that doing dishes tonight.
You know what? You're absolutely right. Your attitude about stuff, like a child, like you, we all had tasks to do. We all disliked them. But if you had switched it, and our parents said, "Listen, this isn't an everyday thing. I'm training you to be independent. So when you turn 18 or 21 or whatever, you'll be able to be on your own and have your own apartment. And won't you be ready for that to get out of the house? I'm just training you for being successful outside of the house." We might have wanted to do those things in a different way, going,
Mhm,
oh, now I've made the bed, or now I know how to do the laundry. So when the time comes, you won't be asking anybody. My parents taught me to do that through chores, and
mhm,
that created my independence. So
mhm.
you're right.
We can start that at any time of our life
Yeah,
too. We can be an older person and not know how to cook. That often happens as people transition through different parts of our lives. You know, we're young and we're in that teenage stage,
yeah.
20s, like every decade.
Mm-hmm.
And often, here's an interesting thing: women will have done the children, done the career, and they're ready to explore their creative side as an older person.
Right.
Often men who have worked their whole lives in their jobs often actually are ready to just sit back and relax, and sometimes there's a discord there of
Oh,
what each partner wants to go do. But if you are always, I guess, open to new possibilities and
mm-hmm.
open to new adventures, that's the fun thing to say. The adventure,
Yeah, there you go.
the job, that switches it in our brain that, oh no, this isn't a job or a task. This is an adventure.
You know, you're so right, because it just had I had an aha moment where a lot of my clients, if they're in their late 50s or something, they refuse to even think about changing a career because, well, after all, I'm only going to stay here and suffer for another 7 years or something like that. And I'm like, why is that an option with you? You know, why are you settling?
Mhm.
Anything is available to you.
Mhm.
Take a class, go
Mhm.
change your job, find
Mhm.
a hobby, and
Mhm.
start intertwining that. So that's
Mhm.
part of the action steps, hopefully, that we'll talk about next time, because you got to really turn on that light switch now that you've got your lists all done, and really take it
Yeah.
to the next level.
So what we're going to discuss now is though what you found out, and let's see if that's what we want, and your thought patterns. And we've done that slide. So now we're going to move on to our next slide. So for next week, it is what comes next. What did you find out? Your habit energies. You will probably be able to recognize them yourself. You may have to ask some people
Mhm.
about your patterns, your behaviors, and what to keep and what to change. And this is a lot. This is a big thought, but at the same time, if you write down every day the same time of day for say 5, 10, or 15 minutes, it's called there's a woman that wrote a wonderful book. She calls it your daily pages. It will start pouring out of you
Yeah.
if you'll take that time. What's your experience with that, Anne?
I actually, it's a similar pattern to what I do right before I go to sleep. Is my
Mm-hmm.
gratitude for the day patterns,
Mm-hmm.
and it's amazing how you can catch yourself being negative or hopeless or something like that. But when you switch it to the gratitude, it
Mm-hmm.
opens the door of abundance. So I do that right before I go to bed because it settles me down. So
Mm-hmm.
if you, like Bonnie said, if you have a certain time of day that you can really do these thought processes, these patterns, it really does train you to identify and release your habit energies, as they say. So those
I
could,
like your thought of doing it at the end of the day. You could look back on your day, say, what interactions did I have? What did I like about my job? Or,
right?
some of you might be in between jobs. And then, boy, I bet your mind is racing.
Yeah,
What should I do? What could I do? Applying for jobs. And I encourage you, if you're in between jobs, to they're not interviewing you, you're interviewing them.
exactly. Ah,
Mhm.
you nailed it. You got
Mhm.
it. Yep,
Yeah, because it's about what you want and need, because you're gonna perform better if you're happy.
that's right. It's
Mhm.
There's no doubt about it.
No,
No doubt about it.
no doubt about it. No doubt about it. So let's go on to our next slide here, and I keep bopping the wrong little thing here. Okay, there we go. Okay. So it's continuing writing out your ideal work business. And next week, we're going to find out what you want and the action steps you're going to take to make your plan B happen for you. I guess, Anne, I want to tell that little story about plan B and why this came up. I had
Absolutely.
a former partner that he actually loved his career, but he got very ill and he was unable to work. And I want to share with each of you, it's not that you're going to die first. You're probably going to be more likely disabled, or an illness may get in the way. And it can be at any time of your life. So the other reason to make a plan B is, and to do what you want, it will again give you options. If you're doing one job and you don't really like it and you're preparing for another job, you'll actually have more than one option to work with in case something happens. And in what I'm encouraging people is have multiple streams of income, because one never knows what the future may bring. And we want to um, plan ahead a bit, not to stress you out, but to relieve your stress.
Right.
That if something were to happen to me, what would happen to the household? What would happen to the family? Even your dog or if a cat, if you're single, what you want to do some planning. And that's what we're discussing is all about as well. How do you feel about that, Anne?
I um I think once you're prepared, you feel more comfort and more ease, to be honest with you. I saw it, and I do see it, especially when I'm working with the military, when they're coming out of the military into back into civilian life. I tell them, when they say, well, I'm a year out, I'm like, start with your plan B now. What
Mhm.
are you thinking of? And a lot of times their careers that they had in the military do not mesh with the careers in the society as a civilian. So we
Mhm.
start brainstorming on different options and stuff like that. But I'll tell you something, when the time is near and they've got 2 months left, and they've really figured out a plan of who they're going to approach and who they're going to talk to, and they've got a mentor in state, and they've talked with their families, or some of them aren't even married, the calmness that comes over them, they're more secure, they're more confident because they
Mhm.
have a plan B. And that's what
Mhm.
we're
Mhm.
both here to help all of you with, is really understanding why it's important to have a plan B. Because like Bonnie said, there's illnesses, there's accidents.
Mhm.
Sometimes you have to step up and go, well, my career is over. How many companies have folded recently in the last year that said,
Mhm.
we're done? Thousands and thousands of workers that had no idea what they wanted to do and where they were going next because their employer didn't warn them.
Mhm.
So we all
Yeah,
need a plan B for life, no matter what.
exactly, exactly. It's an adventure, it's fun,
It
for
is.
sure. So we're gonna have you continue writing out every day or as much as you can. Again, this year is about you and getting what you want.
Mhm.
So write it down what you've learned. And now here's the next step. I want you to mail it to yourself. And it sounds so silly, but when you receive something in the mail, it it changes things. It's coming from your real self to you, and it will remind you. So write a lovely note. If you choose not to do that, email yourself a lovely note, and actually print it up and put it on that bathroom wall. Put it where you see it every day. Put it at your desk where you're actually reading it, because then it solidifies what you really would like in your life. And so, Anne, this has just been such a joy
I've
to
had a
have
great
met
time.
you and to partner with you, so that you are a woman of service to help others. And I love to help others as well. And so we thank you and invite you and someone you know that's ready for their best life in 2023 and their plan B. And we will be back here Monday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and we'll continue this conversation.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you, Bonnie. Without your inspiration and quick mind, none of us would be where we are today. So thank you for adding a piece of Bonnie into our world. So thank
Oh, and same here. We just are sisters by another mother right away. And that's the other adventure. When you
you.
open yourself,
That's
you
right.
get to meet those people that you resonate with. And just think, we would probably have never met if
Yeah.
we hadn't been thrown, many of us, onto the internet networking. And I have met people from literally around the world.
Oh, it's awesome, isn't it? It
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to seeing you next week. And you can also reach out to Anne on LinkedIn or myself on LinkedIn as well.
All right. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Take care.
Bye.